I guess just an introduction into me. I have a software development consultancy, or equals. And we've been doing Phoenix LiveView for about 2 years now. And I'm excited to convince you to change your hearts to switch to Phoenix LiveView as opposed to SPA application development, single page application development, where you have a separate front end and a separate back end. I am still struggling to share my screen. Make sure you allow your system to share the screen. Gosh, darn it. If there's anybody religious in the chat, please say a prayer for me right now. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate it.
Do you use a web version of the application or maybe the desktop app?
Yeah. So I downloaded the desktop application, and I was able to get. I joined this this Plicque meeting earlier, and I was able to share my screen using the desktop application. So let me see. Okay, there's the Plicque meeting app. It's connecting. Do you happen to know, Simon, how to, like, because I'm seeing the word connecting on the Plicque meeting application. I'm wondering how it's not connecting to this web presentation, which I'm sure that's what it's supposed to do. I don't know if you have any ideas.
Yeah. Are you able to quickly export this presentation to PDF file?
Okay.
If that's possible, then you should see on the left side a bar with presentation option.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry to laugh, Simon. Someone in the chat said something hilarious, which is, "Sir, did you try turning it off and turning it on again?" Which is an excellent statement. So let me export my presentation as a PDF, which I have it running in server mode. So I actually have to look this up. Gosh, I'm a little bit frustrated to run into this at this time, because I'm ready to go, guys. And it's, let's see, I can convert it to a PowerPoint X, okay, or PDF.
Yeah, it can be a PDF.
Okay.
Are you going to show us also a terminal or something like this?
I am. Yes, I am. Yeah, so that's the problem.
Okay. Are you able also to join via web version of the app? Maybe because it's actually working pretty well. So you may try to do it.
You know what? I will try the solution to turn off and turn off again, like the Erlang process suggests us to do. When in doubt, restart it. So I will upload the presentation slides, just for the sake of the show must go on. If I can't show my code, then that's just the way it is. So let me go ahead and upload the presentation, output.pdf. Okay, so on the left side, I go to presentation and I do upload file.
Exactly.
Okay. I think we're just gonna get started, guys. And I'm going to go without the code, and then we'll have an intermission while I try and get the code set up. That way we don't lose too much time. So I go to presentation, upload file. Okay. Okay, it's uploading and it's converting, but yeah, it's called output.pdf. So how do I present from there, Simon?
So you can just, if it's an output PDF, right?
Yep, the title is output.pdf.
You can just click on it.
Oh, perfect, okay. And I can go to the slides. Oh, but it doesn't have my images. Gosh, darn it. Yeah, there's so many slides that have images. Yeah.
Still trying to solve it. I think you got a link to the presentation mode as a speaker. Maybe you can try to use this link, open it via browser.
Absolutely. Yep, I will do that. Okay. I will be right back.
All right. Yeah, in the meantime, there was a question from one of you. Do you plan to use LiveView at Curiosum in the future? Why not? So basically, yeah, we already use Phoenix LiveView for a couple of projects. We actually used the Phoenix LiveView very soon when it was published, because we wanted to try it on. We saw it at one of the Elixir Conf conferences as a next hot thing, and actually we love it. But I think you should be careful when you're trying to use it. So I don't think this is the replacement for everything. Like the static pages would still have to be static, and whenever you actually need some kind of a live interaction that you would normally do with JavaScript, then I would pick Phoenix LiveView as the first choice. If there is like a very like, how to say it, heavy live stuff going on the front end side, like games or something like this is not the case for Phoenix Live, because you still have to have this communication with the server. So there is a bit of lag in the information on things that should be changed on the front end side. But still, when it comes to most of the projects, I would pick actually Phoenix LiveView as a real-time solution. Just one thing, if you're running your application on Heroku, it might be hard to do it because Heroku has some limitations. So if you have your app being hosted on anything else than Heroku, then I think it's a good idea. And yeah, we've been using it. I don't see a reason why not using it right now. It's a very great tool. So yeah, that's the answer.
Okay.
Okay, we can see you. We can
Yep,
hear you.
I've got the desktop application. I'm allowing it to share my screen. I have a very good feeling like this. It's about an 85% chance of success. So that's pretty good. And as you all know, I am a betting man. And when you have an 85,
Make it always a better. So let's do it a little bit more. There's one answer here that I think the Heroku is a great Heroku. Yeah, it's kind of a replacement for Heroku if you want to post it by yourself. For sure, it's not as great as Heroku. However, replacements use Heroku to be a feature server instance. That's a pretty interesting thing. All right, we can see you again.
all right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
How's it
you.
now? Okay. Okay, very good. I should be good to go almost. Server. Okay, host 8080. I'm starting my presentation again. Okay, this is looking straight cash, as we say in the USA. All right, and let me share my screen. The moment of truth. Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent.
You made
All
it.
right, we made it. We have made it. Ladies and gentlemen, children, boys and girls, they/them, welcome to Phoenix LiveView, a solution to badness. Let me open up my presentation slides. Today, we're going to be talking about why Phoenix LiveView is a premier, ready for production solution for building web applications. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you two options. I have an ambitious goal for this presentation in the sense that I aim to shake you awake, to wipe the crust from your eyes, the industry has settled on a certain paradigm of building web applications. We all have React front ends, Vue.js front ends, and we have APIs on the back end, whether it be LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit.com. This is the way a modern application is being built. And I, a lowly person who has just a small web development shop in the United States, I'm here to convince you that Silicon Valley and all of us are wrong. My goal is to give you the courage to assuage your fears, to address your anxieties, and to speak to your instinct. Your instinct, there's something wrong, right? Why is it so difficult? Why is it that when the API says created _@ and I'm a front-end developer, I have to say, wait, like you gave it to me in camel case. Can you give it to me in Pascal case? And you have to change it to created capital A @ The reason why there is so much overhead in modern software development is because of the boundaries between systems. The boundaries between systems, the fact that there's a separate front end and a separate back end means that the complexity of the communication between a front end developer, the front end team, and the back end team, that whole contract has to be brokered, making sure that the data matches up. We can't even integration test our applications with confidence anymore because they run in separate application stacks. And so the only way we can actually test our applications is we have to assume that when we're testing our front end app, we code against a fake API backend. Or if we're testing our backend, we have to assume what the request is coming from the front end. We don't have the safety, we don't have the security that we used to have in a world where we built multi-page applications and we were serving HTML over the wire. In this world, what's old becomes new again, and what's new becomes old. In the sense that with Phoenix LiveView, we're going to be serving HTML over the wire all over again. And we're going to go back to the glory that is one developer, one language, being able to ship all pieces of the stack, front end, back end, database, quickly. That's what this presentation is about. I'm hoping that you take the red pill as a result of this presentation. So a little bit about me. I'm Joshua Plicque. I have a small web development shop focused on Phoenix LiveView development. I've been developing software professionally for the past 8 years. I've been using LiveView full-time for the past 2 years, and LiveView's only been out for about 3 years. And so that would probably position me as an expert in the space. And I would like to tell you that I am a LiveView zealot, if you couldn't tell. You may recognize me from my ElixirConf presentation in October of last year, where I talked about production patterns when developing Phoenix LiveView applications. It's just a quick Google search away if you are somebody who's interested in that topic. And if you can't figure it out, if you can't figure it out by now, I'm pretty much a LiveView crackhead. I'm a LiveView zealot, and I'm here to try and convince you that Silicon Valley has it all wrong, and that the way to develop applications is to go back to what was, which is HTML over the wire, sending everything over the wire once again. And yes, for the deft observers in the chat, I am actually wearing the same shirt as I am when I was giving that presentation in October. So with that being said, what to expect from this presentation? We're going to be talking about the state of web application development. So just by the way, guys, if I've been given a lot of presentations on Discord. So if you like type to me in the chat, I will, I may, assuming that it's relevant, I will respond to you in the chat. Like I'm looking for you guys to like give me feedback, like, oh, that was trash, or that was great. So this is a live presentation. Like if you're like, I see someone, Mihai says, lucky shirt. Yeah, this is my lucky shirt. I really like this shirt. It's Michael Kors, representing the top tier designers in the space. Anyway, yeah. So hit me up if you have any questions during the presentation. I will respond to them. With regards to this presentation, we're going to be talking about the state of web application development, the new kid on the block, which is the old kid on the block, HTML over the wire. And we're going to be talking about how LiveView works. We're actually going to be looking at a production application. Everything you've seen to this point has been toy applications. We're actually going to show the development of a real production grade live system. No demos. Like the problem with the Phoenix LiveView lexicon right now is it's all theoretical. I'm trying to give you the confidence in this presentation that yes, we can use this in production. And the only way to convince you to do as such is to show you a production grade feature. And we're going to learn how to build that feature in LiveView against a production grade problem. And then we're going to analyze, we're going to look that LiveView gives you the opportunity to deliver modern user experiences. And for the skeptics in the chat, we're going to dismantle your objections. So let's go back in time to the internet of old, codinghorror.com, the era of blogs, 2010, 2011, 2012. The era of blogs, this was the state of the internet at that time. This was right when Gmail was about to come out. Gmail hadn't come out yet. We're going to talk about Gmail. The world at that time was the multi-page application where you would get the entire payload of the page, you'd click a link, and you'd download the entire payload again. This was the state of the internet at that time. And it was very easy to build applications at that time because you had one language and you needed one person and you could develop the entire full stack of the application. And so what that looked like in terms of user experience and complexity, these are called multi-page applications in the sense that you didn't get a lot of power and it didn't take that much mental overhead to develop these applications. But then Google changed the game. When Gmail came out, the world had no idea what was to come, in the sense that you had applications like this, where you had pop-ups, where you could actually type and do multitasking in applications, where you click on a page, you don't get taken to a whole new page. The user experience of a single page application was so superior to the multi-page apps that we were used to that it took the world by storm. As a result, web development changed forever. And so you have applications like LinkedIn, which is using Ember.js on the front end. You have applications like Twitter, which originally was written in Ruby on Rails as a full stack application. And it got rewritten in Scala on the back end. And I believe they're using React on the front end. I'm not sure, but pretty much what I'm getting at is every application now, this is Reddit. Everything has that SPA, that separate front end with the API as a back end. And so this is where we arrived. This is what the world looks like today, where we went from the multi-page application to the single page application. And look at that green bar. That green bar is phenomenal, right? We have these much superior user experiences, so much so that every application any big application on the planet is built with that same structure, with that separate front end and that separate application. But that came at a heavy cost. Look at that orange line on the right side. We all know that as a result of this change in the paradigm of building web applications, that things got much more difficult. You had separate front-end teams, separate back-end teams. You had to broker the contract between them. And like the front end could get blocked. Oh yeah, I need this attribute on the back end, so I'm kind of blocked today. I'm probably going to leave early because I still need that extra attribute from the back end, so I can't do anything. This is the world that we live in. This is the current state of affairs. And here's a diagram to express what the current state of affairs is. You have that front end, you have that back end, and they communicate via a JSON API. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how the modern web is currently built. The modern web is beautiful. It's clearly superior to the multi-page apps of the past. This is why it's taken the world by storm. But I have one question for you, which is, at what cost has this occurred? Once again, we've seen that we've increased in user experience, but that came at the price of increased complexity. So what was the multi-page app where you had one language, one developer, ultra-fast development, no context switch. That's the key. The difference between productivity and no productivity is two things, which is no context switch in regards to language and even server with regards to JavaScript on the front end, Elixir on the back end. And in addition to that, this is what single page applications have brought to us. You need 3 people now to develop what was one person. One person could do the whole thing because they didn't have to communicate between a front end and a back end and broker a contract between them. Now you need 3 people. You need a front end developer, you need a back end developer. And because of that, the complexity is so high between communicating between the front end and the back end, you need a dedicated person, typically an engineering manager or the project lead, who is brokering the contract with regards to, okay, this is what the API structure needs to look like. Hey, front-end developer, go build against this structure that we've come up with. It's not built on the backend yet. Say the front-end developer then develops against that fake backend, but for some reason the backend developer didn't implement it in that exact same fashion as defined by that document. Now you've got a problem where you've got two applications that are fully built, but because that contract wasn't firmly tied to by the backend developer, they're struggling. Like there's just so much overhead when you're building single page applications, leading by my second bullet point. You need serializers on the front end. Like for example, in JavaScript, you have the created capital A at attribute typically because you're doing Pascal case or camel case. And then on the back end, maybe your attribute is created underscore at. And so you have to create serializers to serialize all the attributes so that it matches with the back end. Oh, in addition, now you have validations on the front end to make sure that your email has the at and the .com at the end, but you also have to write the same validations on the back end. So now we've increased our workload by at minimum 3 times, moving from the multi-page world to the single page app world. We've got all this overhead. You've got to create these API contracts between the front end and the back end. You have isolation in the sense that you don't know if your application actually works because the front end is developing against either a fake back end or not the current state of the back end. And when you actually wire them up, the back end developer finishes their work, the front end developer finishes their work. You can wire it up and it can just not work. Like when I used to work at a startup that focused on building a legal practice management. It's a SaaS product. And it was always, I was the engineering manager at that time. And it was always a frustration I had front-end developers and I had back-end developers, and there was always overhead with brokering the agreement with making sure that features were actually finished when both teams finished the front-end and back-end of a feature. This leads to maintenance overhead, which is the next bullet point, which is in the sense that maybe you have to change something on the back-end, but you can't change it because you're going to break the front end. So now you have to do API v1, you need to do API v2. Oh, this attribute's only available in API v2, you're going to have to upgrade the front end to be able to access that attribute. You need multiple experts. Even at a team of 7 at that startup, I had a front-end team lead and I had a back-end team lead because I needed experts and I needed competence for those separate teams, even though we were only a team of 7. That's ridiculous. I needed multiple experts and I needed someone like myself who could lead the team through all that complexity. And this leads to brittle applications in the sense that, like, you never know if your stuff is going to work because you have to test it across. This is why you need entire QA departments, because you never know. You can't test this correctly. Like when you're writing your test against your front end application, you're not writing it full stack, and that leads to brittle integration tests in the sense that if you do try and test across the front end and the back end, they're running in separate languages. They're running on separate servers, and so that means that your integration test that you write in something like Selenium WebDriver, those tests are going to be slow. They're going to be brittle because you're testing across multiple boundaries. Boundaries are the source of all complexity in software. That's not true, but that's not completely true, but that's within the context of this presentation, that is a truism that you can take to the bank. With that being said, there's a popular meme in the United States where this Asian guy would say emotional damage, like when something like just listen to me, right? Like I've lived this where the frustration with the separate front end and the separate back end, this is just not right. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better. And so when Chris McCord in December 2018 releases Phoenix LiveView, this is what was said. Phoenix LiveView is an exciting new library which enables rich, real-time user experiences with server-rendered HTML. LiveView-powered applications are stateful on the server with bidirectional communication via WebSockets, offering a vastly simplified programming model compared to JavaScript alternatives. And this is where the presentation is going to get kind of cool, because he released in April 2020 this 15-minute YouTube video where he, within the span of 15 minutes, created a Twitter clone with live feature sets where when you would like or retweet a post, it would show up automatically on someone else's timeline. So with the power of Phoenix and Elixir behind Phoenix LiveView, we have all these real-time feature sets that we can easily bolt on together, where this man was able to create a 15-minute presentation where you had complete feature sets built with live support of auto-updating the DOM, the front end, across multiple clients. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the sweet spot. The sweet spot that is Phoenix LiveView, which is lots of gain and opportunity and power in regards to user experience, but low on the complexity side. Let's talk about sweet spot living. So Phoenix LiveView, as of the time of this presentation, is still in alpha versioning, in the sense that it's version 0.17. And so there may be a little bit of consternation from someone watching this presentation saying that, well, like, this is still brand new. Like, I don't know whether to trust this or not. Like, you know, do I get on this trend? Like, is this really like, is this just going to be a flash in the pan? And we can look to Chris McCord's ElixirConf presentation from last October, where Phoenix LiveView has made such a splash in the programming ecosystem that there have been clones created across all the major programming languages. Java introduced Medusa. PHP now has Livewire. Ruby has Stimulus Reflex. Simon was mentioning that earlier today. He was mentioning that Ruby on, or I think he said that in Elixir Meetup too. I was watching that presentation where he mentioned that Ruby on Rails had support for real-time feature sets. And there's a little bit of concern in the sense that we don't know if Ruby on Rails has enough good enough memory management to handle all those connections. We don't have to worry about that in Elixir. Like coming before Phoenix, or in Elixir and the Phoenix LiveView ecosystem, because the fact that we're built on Elixir and Phoenix, these problems were already solved. Remember, Chris McCord made that blog post years ago talking about connecting to one server with 2 million WebSocket connections. This is a solved problem. Phoenix LiveView is built on top of that same architecture. The Phoenix LiveView code base, it's implemented against the Phoenix WebSocket code. Like, with the fact that we're built on this powerful foundation of the Erlang virtual machine, sitting on top of that Elixir, sitting on top of that Phoenix, you just have just highly productive, very powerful and well-organized, we stand on the shoulders of giants. With Phoenix LiveView, you don't have to be concerned that, like, hey, is this thing going to be performant in production? It's because we already know that Phoenix and Elixir and Erlang had multiple decades of production, like, goodness. We can rely on that certainty as we build in this alpha ecosystem. And personally, I have 3 Phoenix LiveView applications in production, and they run, and I don't worry about a thing. So with that being said, that's enough rah-rah, right? No one's giving me any chat. No one's. I thrive on the feedback during the presentation. Somebody says, yeah, I heard that there are problems once he's talking about Stimulus Reflex. That seems like that's Simon. Loving it. We're too mesmerized by your talk. Okay. Yeah. So this is the end of the rah-rah section, right? We're now going to go into the nitty-gritty of things, in the sense that I'm going to demo to you a live presentation. And before that, I'm going to answer these 2 questions that are in the chat, which is, what do you think can be improved in LiveView? That's not something that I want to discuss at this current time, because we're talking about, I'm presenting LiveView to you. I'm showing you that it's a proper solution to the single page application paradigm. We're going to shadow that paradigm with LiveView. So it being improved, we're going to talk about that later. Well, let's talk about that at the end of the presentation. How big is your business, Joshua? That's not also relevant to this presentation right now. So let's move that question to the end of the presentation also. Let's get into it. Let's look at a production grade problem and how we were able to solve this at or equals. So I have a production application running. So running on localhost 4000. So there's this client that we have. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, which is in the southeastern corner of the United States. And there's a company that delivers groceries from local farmers to your doorstep. They really took off during the pandemic because the world had, the lockdowns came and everybody was trying to get groceries, but nobody was trying to go to the grocery store. I'm not trying to catch that, that I don't want to say the word because, that YouTube, or I know this is going to be on YouTube later, a certain infection, right? A certain infection. this really made this business take off. So they were flush with new cash from new clients, and they were flush with new problems. So we built them an entire application from front end to back end in Phoenix LiveView that services both their back end inventory management and getting payments from customers, and the customers being able to order from the store. So one of the features that we built, so Philip, who I'm actually going to bring up in this presentation, Philip is a developer at Or Equals. He has only a year and a half of experience, and he was able to build this entire feature set that is user facing. And what I'm about to show you is what one developer was able to put together with almost pretty much a year of experience at that time. So let's just look at, this is Phoenix LiveView, and like let's just look at like how powerful this is. So this is being able to add add-ons to your order where you can get a cheese with each delivery or eggs with each delivery. So we'll add it. We get $6.99 in the total. Let's add another one. Let's add some milk, $5.99. And so we can dynamically update everything. So and then we can discard all of our changes. So that actually does a redirect, but essentially, like, look how fast this is. This is a spa-like experience, but this is all backend code. How does that, what? Like, that's incredible. Like, I wish like I could see you guys' faces, like, because if I was sitting in the crowd right now, this is insane. This is somebody with less than 2 years of experience who was able to build a real-time updating page all in one language, and that's because of the power of Phoenix LiveView. And so the very next thing that we're going to go through, like, this is a production grade spa level feature set built by someone who was a junior developer at that time. And it's production grade in the sense that it will service multiple members or multiple users at the same time. We call them members in the context of this application, but it's effectively users. So let's actually walk through how this feature was built. How did Philip put together this presentation or put together this? We're actually going to go through building something with Phoenix LiveView. So how was this manage add-ons page made? So let's go back to the initial state, and we're going to build the feature of clicking this add button and it updating the total here where it's $6.99 and it shows up on the right side of the screen. So the very first thing that we talk about in regards to the LiveView lifecycle is we start from the router. Like, in regards to thinking about how to build a feature, we start from the router, and then there's an initial mount on the page, and then there's a WebSocket mount, and then the LiveView then responds to events in the sense that you click button and it's going to send events over the WebSocket. So let's just talk about this real quick, this initial mount versus the WebSocket. So when you initially visit a LiveView page, like when you hit refresh, if I hit refresh on this page, this actually responds as if it's a model view controller, and it sends a full-on HTML payload to the browser. So that's how the initial load page is. That's how, like, it straddles both the WebSocket live connection and the MVC, so that you can get an initial HTML payload from the page. So now you get that entire HTML payload, and you've got that loaded on your page. At this point, so we're gonna actually go to the code. At this point, in the bottom of the app.js file, so I just want to point out that there's only 250 lines of JavaScript code. We have a full-on production grade application with 10,000 plus lines of Elixir code, and there are only 250 lines of JavaScript. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to, if I can write Elixir versus JavaScript, I'm going to write Elixir every single time. And so this is a real application. Everything you've seen up to this point has been like just toy applications and people working with tutorials. Like, no, this is real. This is a real application that is in production that only has 250 lines of JavaScript versus 10,000 lines of Elixir. So the promises are true. If you use Phoenix LiveView, you get these production grade spa-like experiences, all in Elixir, all in one language, so powerful that someone who's a junior developer at that time can put this together. I have to pause because, like, can I get like a clap in the chat? Like, can I get something? Amen. Yes, exactly. Like, that is outstanding. It's incredible. Like, the fact that this is taking the development world by storm. Laravel, it came out with their own live architecture. Ruby on Rails came out with their own LiveView architecture. Same thing with Java and all these other language ecosystems, because this is really that powerful. This is really something that we can rely on to build things faster and with less overhead. So we talked about the HTML mount and the live socket mount. That happens here at the bottom of the app.js file. Livesocket.connect, it's going to a /live endpoint. You're sending your CSRF token to make sure that you don't have cross-site request forgery, and it actually connects. And so let's actually look at that request by request. So let's just start with a brand new console. We refresh the page, and let's just go through the response. So info get, this is actually the HTML. This is the HTML response, and then that's here. This collection of queries is the HTML response. And then here, this is where it actually connects via WebSocket. And then at that point, every interaction occurs over the WebSocket as opposed to needing to make an API call. And so actually, this is more efficient. This is more efficient, and it's cheaper to communicate over a WebSocket as opposed to making API calls, because the payloads are minuscule compared to sending an entire JSON payload to the server and sending an entire JSON payload back. Because Phoenix LiveView uses a library called MorphDOM. MorphDOM is a fast and lightweight DOM diffing patching library. So under the hood, Phoenix LiveView actually does surgical changes to your DOM, and so it's actually more efficient and faster than doing an API response. So making changes to a LiveView page is actually going to be faster than if you had built this with a React front end with Elixir on the back end. That is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So with that being said, let's finish actually going through this thing. Clearly, I told you guys, I'm a crackhead. I'm a LiveView crackhead. I'm a LiveView zealot. And so if you ask a LiveView crackhead to give you a LiveView presentation, you're going to get somebody who's talking really fast. And I apologize for that, because I know that this is an international audience and I should be speaking slower. So let me try and slow down, because I get it. Like, English is a second or third language. Like, I apologize. I just, like, as you can see, like, this is really outstanding. This is actually phenomenal. So let's just talk about how to build this feature of adding one of these add-ons to the page. So we start at the router, right? Let's go to the router, and you define it right here, live, and you define the edit add-ons route right here. And it does a match, right? Just like any other router and any other ecosystem, it matches on the route, and then it actually sends you over to the correct live view. So the name of the live view is member subscription live.edit add-ons. And so we're going to go there. We're in the, okay, hold on. Did I just lose Vim? Okay, I lost Vim. All right, live coding, right? Live coding, am I right? Subscription live. And then we're going to go to this live view, and this is the mount callback right here. And so when you initially load the page, the HTML, if we go back to the live cycle, on initial mount, we hit the mount callback. And so that's what happens here. So in regards to like just standard live view, there's mount, but we've got some sort of like a little bit of meta programming to make sure that the person's authenticated. That's what off mount does. But for the sake of this presentation, just assume this is the mount callback. And so what happens is it grabs the current member off the socket, it loads this person's shopping cart, and then it essentially throws all the add-ons on the page. That's what's happening here in this initial mount. The second thing that happens is it calls the handle params, the handle params callback. So on HTML request, you go to the mount callback and you go to the handle params callback. That's happening on line 28. So on line 28, it sends the params from the router. There are no params, or there's one param, which is the name, this edit add-ons. That's what's coming from the router. Let's open up the router again, just so you can see it. We go to edit add-ons. This atom is being sent to this handle params callback, and we're calling this function right here. And see how it's assigning a page title, edit add-ons right here. That's what, if you see it in the URL right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse like spinning. See how it says edit add-ons in the URL? So the very first, two things happen. You go to mount, and then you go to handle params. And handle params allows you to, like, say, you have, like, let's just go to the store. Handle params allows you to handle different query params. Like, so there's a whole boiled peanuts category in their store. And as what we're doing here is on mount, on clicking of these buttons, it actually goes to the handle params callback, allowing us to filter what store items get shown. That's what's happening in this area. So with that being said, we now go to the very next thing, which is the WebSocket. The WebSocket then, after that HTML payload gets sent, it now makes a connection over WebSocket, and it does the exact same thing. It goes to mount and it goes to handle params again. At this point, you now have a live WebSocket that you can now communicate over the wire. So at this point, we're going to click that add button. On the add button, we go to view add-ons. We click this add button. What actually happens? So let's actually look at this in the HTML. So let's open up edit.html.lex. So guys, like this is actually a real application. That's why you see all these files in here. Like, this is not BS. This is a real application. This is not like this alpha software, but we're running this in production. So this is how it actually works. There's somewhat front-end framework-y type things in the sense that there's a Phoenix Click event. So it knows that when you click on that button, this is the add button, it calls an add-on event in the live view. So let's open to the live view, member subscription live, add-on. And so Phoenix LiveView wires it up where when you click that add-on, it's going to be handled by this add-on in the backend. Hey, and guess what? And there's also this Phoenix value ID. It's going to send an attribute called an ID with the ID of the add-on that you're trying to add to your shopping cart. And so this is all the code does. Can we just marvel again at the lack of a serializer, adapters, needing to do data validation on the front end and the back end, needing an API contract between the front end and the back end developer? We're looking at literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines of code to achieve something that would take 30, 40, 50, 80 lines of code, like across 4 or 5 different files. This is the difference between SPA and doing HTML over the wire, which is actually more efficient than if you, it's more computationally efficient due to the fact of that morphdom.js library and how this was implemented by Chris McCord and the Phoenix LiveView core team. This is more efficient and on multiple levels in regards to developer complexity, developer overhead, and in regards to computationally in the sense that it takes less information is being shared over the wire across communicating between the front end and the back end because it's happening through very minimized payloads through the WebSocket. So you click add add-on, it's clear what's going on, right? Like, okay, we're creating a shopping cart add-on. This is production code, guys. We're updating a shopping cart and that's it. And then the just like React and just like Vue.js, the front end just automatically updates. And so that's effectively, that's how you, this very basic, this simple programming model, this is how we built everything in this application. Like, it's an HTML mount, there's a WebSocket mount, and then there's handle event callbacks. So if we go back to our live view, there's multiple handle event callbacks where you've got this add-on here, you got increment add-on, that's what's happening when you click the plus sign here, going up to 2, going up to 3, 4, 5. And you see this automatic updating of the total here on the right side, right? You go down, the total goes down $13.98. And so that's what's happening here. And it's simply, you just decorate some attributes in the HTML with a certain event that you're targeting in the live view. You write the live view with the handle event. You do whatever you need to do in regards to updating something in the database. And then you respond with a no reply on the WebSocket. Because at the end of the day, this is Phoenix. This is process communication. And so I'm gonna jump in this presentation, right? We've got all these lines of code, all these features that we've built. Like, let's just like look at the graph of all the objects or all the modules in this application. So like, this is a real production system. Look at all these files, look at all these folders, like lots of stuff. We've built lots of stuff. We've been working on this thing for like a year and a half. We have a few controllers, but we have a ton of live views. Like, let me show you something really cool. Let's run the test suite. So we have some import code, but effectively, because I want to, what I'm getting at is like, we have roughly 92% test coverage. This is actually running really slow. But we have a full test suite and it runs in 14 seconds. Chat, 14 seconds, complete integration test. The reason why this is so fast is because you're not communicating across the front end and the back end. It's because you have an Elixir process, and the way the LiveView test is actually implemented, it actually just sends events to the process and it observes the state of the process. And so that's why this is so fast. We have an application that we've been working on for a year and a half, and the test suite runs in less than 15 seconds. Claps in the chat. Thank you. Yes, you guys are already on it. That's stupid, guys. LiveView really, like, this is ridiculous. Like, the value that you get from using LiveView, I feel like I should be paying for this. Like, somebody should be getting paid. I should be paying somebody to, like, this is ridiculous. So with LiveView, this was a real live demo of a production grade system. One language, this is what was old is new. One language, one developer, ultra fast development, no context switch between systems, no contracts between the front end and the back end, no validation on the front end and the back end, no having to say do created at underscore to created at camel case. Junior developers can build things with this much power, this much functionality because of Phoenix LiveView. Ladies and gentlemen, LiveView is the real deal. So this is, so I'm like coming down really fast, right? Those were the highs. We're going back to the lows in the sense that this is something that I want to give to you guys in regards to when you're building features in LiveView. These are the different ways you want to start and think about your as going through the application stack, how to think about it. Like step one, you start at the endpoint. You typically don't have to think about the endpoint. The endpoint takes care of turning the HTTP request into Elixir code, turning it into the con. You typically don't have to worry about that. But you start off at the router, you go down, you go to your LiveView in step 3, the HTML mount, the WebSocket mount. And then step 4, you pretty much just do the handle event callbacks. And then steps 5 and step 6 is you have your Phoenix context, which came out in Phoenix 1.3, and you have your schemas in regards to saving stuff to the database. This is how you think in LiveView. You've seen it in regards to with respect to a production grade feature. And that scales across, like what you just saw, that simple feature, it scales to everything you want to build in LiveView. And so with that being said, there's probably a few objections that someone might have, which is, can I really build rich applications? So somebody says, what about mobile applications? So of course, Phoenix LiveView, as long as you, like this application is going to support like just, it's responsive. So you can use this on your phone. But in regards to mobile applications, you have a good point in the sense that a mobile application, so you could do a PWA like Bartos is saying in the sense that you can use something like Cordova or PhoneGap is old, but it seems like Capacitor.js is the gold standard right now in regards to building cross-platform applications, like turning your HTML, CSS, JavaScript application into something that you can use cross-platform. I've not personally used it myself. I've not used it with Phoenix LiveView. With regards to mobile applications, say you're actually going to go native and build something in iOS/Android, you still are going to have to build out a controller or MVC controllers in the sense that you're going to need to build out an API to service those applications. But because of Phoenix Context, in the sense that you actually have this layer of application logic, so your LiveView talks to the context layer. So let's just say like this feature set that we're looking at, it talks to a member shopping carts context. So let's open up the member shopping carts context. I'm going somewhere with this. We look at the member shopping carts context. You can get or create a member shopping cart, create a member shopping cart, insert add-ons into the database, delete the shopping cart. Effectively, this interface can be used where you can just like the LiveView layer, the LiveView code layer talks to the context, the member shopping carts context. You can now create your API that also talks to that same layer. Because out of the box, Phoenix encourages you to encapsulate your code in context. You can quickly spin up an API controller because you're going to be using the same functions that the LiveView uses and the API uses. So another objection that someone might make is like, okay, now I've got double work. You're saying I have to build it in LiveView. If I was doing a spa, I don't have to build the API once. It services both the web application and the mobile application. That's a a really good objection. I would argue that it's a bad objection. I would argue that it's short-sighted because yes, that's true. You do have to do an additional work by building the API, but the thing is, you get so much gain from doing stuff in LiveView with context layers underneath it. Remember what I've been saying about all those contracts, like making sure everything's the front end can talk to the back end, data validation in the front end and the back end. Like there's so much productivity gain by using LiveView. I think that the net of doing Phoenix LiveView context, API context is more productive than doing an API separate front end with that same API being used from the mobile application. I don't have metrics on that, but based on what you've seen, right? You've seen this presentation. You know that a junior developer built this. That was some really this is a really power-packed page. So the fact that you have seen that this can be built quickly, you saw the feature. Like if you don't even know the Phoenix LiveView architecture, I was able to describe it to you within the context of a production grade application. Because of that, the lack of complexity, I would argue that using Phoenix LiveView with a separate API to service a mobile app is more productive than getting the API, building the API with a separate front end out of the box. Due to the complexity of all the relationships, all the complexity in software happens across boundaries between systems. Because of the fact that you don't have a boundary between your front end and your back end, this means that you're free, right? You can have one developer develop the entire full stack of the application. I was at a startup with 7 people. I had a front end team and a back end team. I had a front end lead and a back end lead, and I was just hustling between the 2 teams, making sure that the API contracts were right and was this going to work when we actually turned it on. Like I was nervous when I was deploying to production because I knew that the front end could break, the back end could break, or the communication between the front end and the back end could break. With LiveView, all of that is gone. Welcome to bliss. Let's get into the next objection, which with regards to, can Phoenix handle all, oh crap, I'm like showing my slides, but I'm not actually showing my slides. In the sense that, guys, I don't know if you've read this, but Chris McCoy, this is from 2015. Like one server was able to service 2 million WebSocket connections in Phoenix. Like this is an old problem that's been solved. Like Philip and I, we did some consulting at a company called MetaLink. It's kind of like they're trying to take over. It's a Web3 application. They're trying to take over. They're trying to take over like communication from Discord because it's kind of. I don't want to get into it, but it's effectively this is an application with a lot of it's a full-on chat application, just like Discord or Slack or something like that. We did some consulting for them. And this is built on render.com. So I heard Simon mention that he recommends Heroku.com. I think Heroku.com is great for Elixir deployment. We've been using render.com. This MetaLink application at the time when we were working on it was hosted on render.com. So like all those WebSocket connections, like if I type in the chat, like right now, I'm just gonna type something, right? This is real. And so if somebody types back to me, this is communicating over WebSocket. Like this is the same architecture that Phoenix LiveView uses. This is an Elixir application in production, running on just a standard platform as a service. Like, can Phoenix LiveView handle all the load of all those WebSocket connections? The answer to that is overwhelmingly yes, from the theory in regards to what I showed you in terms of a blog post, but also in my own reality in regards to something that I have worked on that actually has a lot of people using it. HTML over the wire, the payload size. So I discussed to you about Morph DOM. I don't want to necessarily, I don't want to go through the demo of it. Other people in the Phoenix LiveView space have discussed the communication and how it's more efficient than actually a SPA application with JSON payloads. I've discussed that a few times. I could prove it to you. I'm not going to because it's going to take me a long time to set up. But effectively, the payload size is more efficient. It's faster than actually having a separate front end and a separate back end. Another objection you might have is this thing runs on WebSockets. Like, what if like I'm on my phone and like I've got spotty internet? So the way Phoenix LiveView is implemented, so let me just show you the slide. This thing runs on WebSockets. What about unreliable internet? We click, this is actually full on this in the Phoenix LiveView docs. By default, all forms marked with Phoenix change will recover input values after the user has reconnected. So say like you're typing into a form, right? Like let's just say it's a login page. You're typing your email and password. You get through half of your email. You're at the @ symbol, and you're walking around with your phone, and your internet drops. So now your WebSocket severs, right? Your WebSocket's gone. Boom. You no longer have a connection to the server. When you get internet back, Phoenix LiveView is trying to reconnect back to connect a new WebSocket. When the WebSocket reconnects, it's going to read the state of that form. It's going to look at your email up to the @ symbol, and it's going to effectively like rehydrating, like in the JavaScript ecosystem. It's going to rehydrate the WebSocket with the state of the form based on that Phoenix change event. So when your WebSocket reconnects, it's going to send a Phoenix change event to the server, and that's going to get handled, and it's going to essentially, your WebSocket is going to be restored with the same state that you had before you lost your connection. So you can read more about this, but this is a solved problem in the space. Another question you might have is like, what resources should I use for learning? I've used all the ones that, gosh, I have slides, but I'm not showing them. Let me show you the slides. So the slide is, I recommend these 3 resources. Grox.io, this is from Ben Tate. This is the guy who's the co-author on effectively every single book in the Elixir ecosystem, whether it be programming Elixir, programming Phoenix, building software in layers. Like, he's the editor of every Elixir book that came out. I used his course, the Elixir and Phoenix LiveView course, on Grox.io. I think it's phenomenal. Pragmatic Studio, that's another course. You can learn Elixir and Phoenix LiveView. I have a junior developer at my company, or equals, that went through absolutely, like, literally did not even finish a React boot camp. I just met this guy and I was like, okay, I got a good instinct about this guy. He went through the Elixir and the Phoenix LiveView course. He's actually on this call, a guy named James Westbrook. He's in the chat right now, so you can confirm. This is not BS. Literally, he went from like not even knowing how to code, not even finishing a React boot camp. He started at or equals. He went through the Elixir course on Pragmatic Studio and the Phoenix LiveView course. He started in December of last year, and as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he's been pushing production grade code. Like, that's just ridiculous, guys. We're talking about somebody who doesn't know how to code, did not even finish studying it, went through these courses, and within 2 to 3 months is actually shipping real production features in Phoenix LiveView. Like, it's really like this is really as good as it sounds. So, and then finally, my last slide is also testing is lightning fast. You saw it. You saw it with your own eyes. A production grade system, the test suite runs in 15 seconds. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice. You are now in the know. Bruce Lee once said, "It is not enough to know, you must apply." And so now that you know, the question is, will you take the red pill or will you take the blue pill? Will you take this knowledge with you for a more productive, profitable, fun future, or will you go back to sleep? That's it. I'm done. All right, questions. Let me scroll up.
Thank you very much, by the way. I feel like you said that we should pay for using LiveView. I think we should pay
so.
for advertising it. Great talk. And let me just open a Q&A. Just a second. All right. So if you have any question to Joshua, feel free to ask it.
Yeah, so I remember there were questions that came through the presentation, so please like ask them again. Okay, yeah. That's some good ones. Okay. What do you think can be improved about LiveView? So can I just go, Simon? I guess so. Yeah, we're going.
Yeah, sure.
Show must go on. What do you think can be improved in LiveView? I think that there needs to be a bold move to getting to version 1.0. I think that it's a very stable ecosystem. I think that I was a little bit frustrated by the change to the HTML templating, the .leex. You'll observe that in that application, all of our templates were in the .leex syntax, which is deprecated in Phoenix 0.16 in favor of the HEEX syntax. That means that we have to rewrite almost all of our templating. That is a very painful, very, very painful upgrade that we're going to have to do. I hope that there are no big bang changes like that. That's going to be very painful to upgrade our applications. I wish that hadn't happened. I mean, that doesn't answer the question, but what can be improved? A strong push to 1.0. I would like to see that. Other than that, I'd like to see more learning resources. More learning resources and like all my complaints have to do with like marketing essentially. LiveView should be 1.0. We need to know about production grade applications like the one that we've built that are written in LiveView. So Jose William has done a really good job. If you go to elixirlang.org, you'll see that he's like effectively shilling how good Elixir is in the sense that it's being used at Pepsi. It was used to build Discord. Like we need that in terms of Phoenix LiveView. Like what LiveView applications at big companies exist to encourage engineering managers and CTOs to take on the risk of using LiveView. So the perceived risk. So I know from experience that there's really not a lot of risk to using LiveView. It can solve the vast majority of the problems. All my issues with LiveView have to do with getting the machine behind it, getting more people using it. What I believe can be improved about LiveView is the marketing. How big is your business? Joshua asking this because I know how easy it is to program in LiveView. So my company has 4.5 people at it in the sense that we've got 4.5 because one of them is a contractor. We have 4 developers, which is myself. I mentioned Philip and James in this presentation. There's another guy named Zach out in San Francisco. And then my little brother Joseph is running the business. He's doing the business admin. So we've got 5 people and about 3 clients. And so that's how big my consultancy is. What about testing in LiveView? So testing is absolutely phenomenal. We saw mixed tests, so we can go through like a few tests. Like we can actually look at the test against that feature. Member subscription live. I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, I don't want to necessarily share my screen. But what about testing in LiveView? Testing in LiveView has gotten better. The API it was a little bit frustrating for a while there, but I would say that it is at a point where the API to testing your live views is very intuitive at this point, and it's very easy to do. Like essentially you just click things on the page and then you observe the results. In regards to black box testing, you can actually target particular, like there's a render hook callback that just came out that allows you to target particular handle event callbacks. Testing in LiveView is ready for prime time. It's excellent. Next question is, what strategy can be implemented with LiveView for high UI interaction features? Drag and drop. Yeah, so drag and drop. So there's a video from, there's a company called Headway that also specializes in Phoenix LiveView. They're also a consultancy, just like Curiosum, my company. This is just a tip, Simon. They've done phenomenal YouTube content. It's called headway.io. I think that I'm going to steal some ideas in regards to how they're attracting business through excellent marketing in regards to marketing a software consultancy, which is very hard because what we do is very broad. It's very broad in scope. It's like, hey, like you need custom software. Like it's just the conversation is very broad. It's hard to market a software consultancy, and they've done an excellent job. They've got a video called Drag and Drop. There's if you look up Drag and Drop Headway, you'll see that there's a woman who gives the presentation, and she has an excellent presentation about actually implementing drag and drop support in Phoenix LiveView. In regards to animations and maps, there's Chris McCord, one of his keynotes, I think it was either last year's 2020 or 2019. He actually shows like implementing animation. There was a whole like contest in regards to building games in Phoenix LiveView. Like that was a whole thing, like where people were showing how fast, people were building. There's like a Flappy Bird clone that was created. That was one of like the high ticket things that were built with it, and it ran at 60 FPS in a web browser. So the game was updating with like at 60 FPS in the browser using Phoenix LiveView, no JavaScript, no API calls, communicating all over the WebSocket. So in regards to high UI interaction features, Phoenix LiveView, there's been demonstration of that over and over again. How do you feel about the new templating system? I think it's a pain in the butt, to be honest with you. I think LEEX was superior. HEEX, especially with the fact that you can't write inline EEX inside of your strings anymore. It's very non-intuitive on how you can actually get dynamic classes that change based off of attributes in HEEX. I understand like the reasoning behind HEEX had to, why it had to come out. LEEX is deprecated. I think that they added new power. It's more efficient. It's clearly better. The API of it, it's more performant. It has more features, but the API of actually using it is inferior to what LEEX was. What do you think about Surface UI? I have not used Surface. I know that was a big thing about HEEX, like the guy who wrote Surface. Like if you look at Chris McCord's 2021 Elixir Conf talk, near the beginning of the presentation, he talks about HEEX and how the guy who wrote Surface was a big part of HEEX. I have personally not used Surface, so I don't have a strong opinion on it. I know people, I was talking to a few people at Elixir Conf, and in general, the buzz around Surface is that it is an excellent component framework for the LiveView ecosystem that it's on top of, because of course Phoenix LiveView has its own component ecosystem, like or architecture, sort of like React components. But Surface is another one. It's a component library that allows you to, I guess, add more functionality. It seems that people's opinion of it is very good from Elixir Conf, but I don't have a personal opinion on it. Is that all of them? Let me see if there's any other ones. What about mobile apps? We answered that. And I think there was maybe one more. Did you pray to the live coding gods before the presentation? Yes, I did, because I don't know when you showed up, but the beginning of this was very rocky because I wasn't able to share my screen. And so I was going to, as they say, the show must go on. And so I was going to do it without demoing the application, but that would have really sucked not being able to demo. So the LiveView gods, our prayers were answered. Thank you.